Hello, my name is John Cunningham, and this is a very basic, easy to follow tutorial on how to use Final Draft. This will not be a tutorial on how to write a screenplay. I might do one of those later. This is just how to use this software, and it's going to be the most basic use of the software, just the simple act of writing a screenplay. I'm on version 13. If you're using an older version, don't worry because most of the versions are pretty much similar. And also, I am using Windows. I'm using the Windows version. It's a bit different than the Mac version, but if you're using Mac, also don't worry because while the layout's a bit differently, everything works pretty much identically. So when you open Final Draft, you're going to see this splash screen and you're just going to click New File. Now, what you'll notice is that it brings up this window with a screenplay in it, but this window is kind of like its own floating window within the program. Like you see all this empty space around it. What you can do is you can press this, maximize button, as like most software windows have, and it maximizes it. What you'll see here is that up here there's rows, um, two rows of these buttons. The top one is for Final Draft itself. So like if I were to hit this X button here, it would close Final Draft altogether. Whereas this bottom row is for just this document. So you can actually have multiple screenplays open at once if you want, which can be pretty useful if like you're, you know, doing like multiple episodes or something. Or I can close out of this by just clicking the X here, and now notice Final Draft, the program's open, but it's completely empty. So what you do is you go to File here, which again, this might be different on Mac. You'd have to look through the menus, but you're going to be able to find New, and that will just open up a new document here, and you're good to go. And again, I'm going to maximize this. I'm going to go back to the Home ribbon here. Now, one thing you're going to want to do right when you begin is the title page up here in this ribbon. And again, I'm sorry to keep repeating this, but if you're on Mac, you're going to have to find this because the ribbons are a bit different. But you will absolutely be able to find the title page button. And you click this, and it brings up its own title page. Here's where you can do the title page. Script title, I don't know, tutorial written by, you just write this, John Cunningham. I misspelled my own name. And you can just get rid of this. This is like if you're doing an adaptation or something. You can get pretty creative with title pages. I personally like to just keep them simple. You can put your address and phone number down here. I would always put your email address, not your physical address, because that's kind of how things work now. Now, to get out of the title page, because you might be like, okay, how do I get back to my script? Remember the two rows of buttons here? Well, the title page is like its own window, so you can just press X here, and it brings you right back to your script. Okay, so that's a title page. And if you ever need to open it, right, it saves itself. So if you open this, right, it's still intact. So even though it's not a window that's open, I don't know why Final Draft separates the title page from the main script, but they do. And if you go to print it, then it's there. So don't worry about that. It is there. It's just on its own window. Okay, so there's really only one thing in the ribbons up here that I want to show you for this specific tutorial, because again, this tutorial is just to get you started. Like if you've never used Final Draft before, if you have used Final Draft, you're not going to get much out of this tutorial, so you may as well close out now. But if you've never used it before and you just want a quick rundown, this is your tutorial. So scene heading, up here where it says scene heading, element settings, this little drop down, this is where you can see all of the different elements you can do. But the cool thing about Final Draft is you do not need this menu. You do not need to come up here and change the element every single time you want it. Like you don't need to click on dialogue here to get dialogue. There's two specific keyboard keys that will let you do almost everything you want to do while you're in the document itself. So first things first, we need a slug line, right? We need a scene heading. So let's say and notice how if you can see here, it's predicting. If I were to press E, it predicts exterior. And you can also use your arrow keys to choose one too. Like if I were to just choose int, that goes like that, and it just brings me there, right? So, and then I press, it brought me down to the next line. I press backspace to get back up there. So interior, right? Let's say house. And notice that this is all in caps. I don't have caps lock on right now. When you're doing a scene heading or a slug line, as some people call it, it knows it needs to be all caps, so it just puts it in all caps for you. Um, all right, I just did like a random location here. Again, this is not a tutorial on how to write a script. I'm not going to explain like day and like how this is formatted, but this is how you do a scene heading. Now, the key you're always going to press is enter. If you're on Mac, it's the return key. I'm just going to call it enter because that's what I'm using. I'm on PC. But if you're on Mac, just know whenever I say enter, it's the return key. So when you press enter, it brings you to a new line. And now notice, I'm going to bring your attention. I'm going to press backspace to go back up here. I want you to pay attention again to this menu up here. Okay? Notice how it automatically changes because Final Draft is very good at predicting what you want to do. When I press enter, and again, focus up here, focus up there. When I press enter, it automatically changes to action because it knows that the line right under the slug line is likely going to be action description. And so I can say Jack walks into his living room, turns on the TV, right? Okay, and I press enter, and notice how it gives me automatic spacing here. I don't need to like press enter again. If I was going to do a second paragraph, like he falls to the floor or something, right? Like it's just there for you. But I want to do dialogue. I don't want a second paragraph. So how do I get to dialogue from here? Well, I could go up here and choose dialogue here, or you can implement the second greatest key in Final Draft, which is the tab key. When you press the tab key, from the starting position of a new line, it knows that it's going to be dialogue. So when you press tab, watch what happens to this cursor icon. It goes right to the middle there and it's ready for dialogue. And not only that, but it automatically puts it in all caps. So I can do that, Jack. And then when I press enter again, it goes to Jack's dialogue. See how the enter key just automatically knows what needs to happen with the formatting. You really do not need to go up here. And again, the tab key is what brought it to Jack. And I can say, is there, oops, I misspelled that. Is there anything good on these days? What gives, dude? All right, and then I press enter again when I'm done with dialogue. I have no, by the way, this story is literally nothing. I'm just making up crap. I'm just showing you how to write, how to use Final Draft. Okay, so now we're back to a new line. I could either do description, right? Or I could press tab, which goes back to dialogue if you want to do a second character. And by the way, I pressed enter again, and it just, oh, sorry, you press backspace, it goes up there, you press enter again, and it goes back to the line. Or I'm going to say Jack looks around. He's completely alone, talking to himself. Okay, pressing enter again. All right, I'm ready for a new scene. That's our first scene. So this is like the most basic scene you could possibly imagine, but you'll notice how really, once we did the scene heading, press enter and goes straight into action description. Press enter again, we press tab, and it went to dialogue. We pressed enter again, and it's the dialogue itself. We press enter again, and it goes back to action description. This can take, good hour to get used to, but once you get used to it, it's so intuitive that I promise you, it's such muscle memory that you don't even think about this stuff as you're typing. Just remember that it's all about the enter and the tab keys. Now, we want a new scene. Well, there's an easy way to get a scene heading without, again, going up to this top here and pressing scene heading. What you can do is you can just type either int or ext. I want to do ext. I want to be outside of his house. Once you press this period, now notice it still thinks we're in action description here, but if I type ext or int and then I put a period after it, watch what happens. I'm going to put a period in 3, 2, 1, boom. It automatically knows you're doing a scene heading and it just changes to scene heading. See how smart Final Draft actually is? As many problems as a software might have, to be honest, but it is a pretty smart program. Press space here, house. It's still, and notice how it keeps all the locations too. See how it's trying to autofill there. That's really useful when you're writing like a full feature script or even like a TV series where you just need like the same locations over and over. All right, I'm gonna do front lawn day. All right, pressing enter again. We're going down to that. And we're gonna say Jack walks outside. He sees a neighbor, because this is a new character, right? Let's say 30s, watering his garden. All right, Jack's gonna say, howdy, neighbor. And then, so, sorry, I just kind of blew through that. I'm gonna walk you through it again just to make sure it's, okay, so enter. Now I'm gonna press tab, Jack, enter. Howdy, neighbor. Okay, we're done with that. Enter. We're back to the action description. Now I'm going to press tab again because I'm going right into the neighbor's dialogue. Okay, enter. Leave me alone, you lunatic. I hear you in there talking to no one. The neighbor screams and runs inside, leaving the plants unwatered. Jack droops his head, confused. All right. Is that not a word? What the hell? If you right click, you can see unwatered. Whatever. I'm leaving it. You know, maybe I'll put a little hyphen there. There we go. All right. Okay, so that's a good scene. Now, let's say you want to fade out here. Let's talk about transitions. How do you do transitions? Well, here's another tool that can be really useful. I'm going to press enter, right? New line, right? Okay, so what do? Do we press tab? Nope, that goes to dialogue, right? That goes to character. Well, what if you press enter again? If you go to, I'm going to backspace to go to this previous line, and then I'm going to press enter again. Now we're at a new line. So when you are at a new line, if you press enter again, it brings up this elements list. Any of these, and I'm using the arrow keys, by the way, you can cycle through any of these with the arrow keys. And then if I were to press enter, like let's say I'm going to go to character here. If I was to press enter here, it does do a character. I'm going to backspace. But the other thing you can do, and again, once you get kind of comfortable with Final Draft, you'll just kind of start, your muscle memory will start to develop for these keys. I'm going to press enter again to bring up this elements list. Notice how every single one of these elements has a letter assigned to it at the front. So like transition is T, dialogue is D, parentheticals are P. If I just press that letter, it will automatically do that element. So I'm going to press the T key here. And now notice the cursor goes to the far right, and I can say fade out, right? And notice how Final Draft has a bunch of the, I'm going to actually do fade to. It has a bunch of pre-built like common transitions. So if you're not sure like what a proper transition is, usually if you just type in like fade, for instance, it will show you what you can work with. So I'm going to say fade to, okay? And then when you do that transition, look, it automatically brought me back to the next line. And I think, yep, if you look up here, it automatically knows that after a transition, we're doing a scene heading. So I'm going to say I, and look at that. It already knows. But I'm just going to type it out. Office. Bullpen, I guess. Day. Whatever. I'm going to say dusk. I don't know why. Don't judge me. All right. I'm going to press enter again, go into the second line. And then, so now what we can do is I'm going to say, Jack sits with his secretary, Gloria. I'm going to make her, why not, in her 50s, I guess. She looks terrified of him. Yeah, I'm going to say she looks terrified of him, tries not to look away, whatever. I don't even know. Again, I have no idea what this is. I'm just writing stuff. Okay. And I'm going to say, I'm going to go to Jack here. Jack, again, sorry, I did this line. I'm going to go, and by the way, if I want to do another one, right, I can do another one. Jack, in fact, I'm going to, pounds his fists in frustration. All right, enter, tab, Jack, enter. Why does everyone fear me so? Okay, enter, and I'm going to teach you a new element, all right? Pressing tab, Gloria. What just happened? What did I press? Whatever. Gloria. All right, enter. Okay. Now, you probably are wondering at this point, well, how do I do parentheticals? I don't know if you're wondering that, but if you know about parentheticals, how do you do parentheticals? Well, if you notice in the last time we pressed enter, it also works at the beginning of dialogue. I can press enter and look at that. There's the parentheticals. So I can press P and we have it. Scared, right? Now, there's an even easier way to do it. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to press enter again at the beginning of dialogue. Remember how the tab key is very useful because it brings you right to dialogue? Well, if you're already in dialogue, the tab key will bring you straight to parentheticals. How nifty is that? And you press scared, and you press enter, and it knows to just go straight back to the dialogue. And she goes, no one fears you, boss. Whoops. Of course not. Actually, everyone loves you. You're wonderful. Wonderful. Everyone knows it. Of course they do. We love, love, love you. I'm getting carried away. All right, so actually now I do want to fix this. Hold on. We love, love, love you. Okay. I don't know why I fixed that. It doesn't matter. Anyways, I'm going to press enter. All right. And I'm going to go back to dialogue. I'm going to do another one. Okay, pressing tab to get to this. Proud. Ha. Wait, I'm going to scroll down here. I knew it. It's actually my neighbor who is the lunatic, not me. All right. So, Gloria nods. Glorida. Gloria nods. Gloria nods. Gloria nods at him and smiles, but she holds back tears of terror. Jack is none the wiser. All right. Anyways, and then what do? Well, we're gonna close out the script, right? We're gonna press enter to get to this. We're gonna go to transition, and we're gonna say fade to black, and that's the screenplay right there. Obviously, this is the stupidest screenplay ever written, but that's not the point. The point is that's how you use Final Draft. Notice how easy that is. Notice how intuitive it is. Really, all you need to do is remember three things. If you want a scene heading, you press interior, you type interior or ext dot. Once that period comes into play, and the same thing works with if you do I/E too, that knows it's a scene heading. But you press interior, you do your little slug line there, you press enter, and the enter or return key if you're on Mac. Pretty much you just press that, and then if you press enter again, that's how you get to these. You can write action description, you press enter again, and then the tab key is how you're going to get to dialogue. Right, and press enter again. So it's all about that enter and tab key. And then if you do, and then just to remind you, why do I keep writing Glorida? Glorida. Gloria, and then again, if you're in the dialogue, tab will also do parentheticals. Happy, I cannot type right now, I swear. Happy. Oops. I am so happy. And by the way, there is a way. How do I? Oh yeah. That's another way. Okay, so if you want multiple parentheticals in one, I'm going to give you one last tip here. If you want multiple parentheticals in one section of dialogue, the way you do that is you would have to go to a new line, and then you do press enter again, choose parentheticals, and then it knows to bring it back up to that last one. Actually, I am sad. Jack. I don't. Wow. What I am. I cannot type. Maybe it's because I'm filming. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, so really, it's really just all about the enter key and the tab key. And it's Final Draft kind of just takes care of the rest for you. It takes care of the formatting. It takes care of the spacing. It takes care of whether you're in caps or not. If you want to make something bold, you still have all of your normal underlines, bolds, italics all up here. You can add images if you want. I don't know why you'd want to do that. Um, this up here, you can see like scene view, index cards, beat boards. These are for like outlining, which you can mess around with those if you want. Maybe I'll do a tutorial on those, but this tutorial is more just meant to just be a basic tutorial for the actual act of writing a script itself. Um, Obviously, you're going to have save. You can save as a PDF. There's even a button to register the script with the WGA if you want. But I think last time I checked, I don't think this link works, but I don't know. Here's where you print and everything. You know, a lot of this is just very like basic, like things you'd see in Microsoft Word. You can track changes here. The view key could be useful. You can do like day mode, night mode, midnight mode. I think those are newer versions. So if you have an older version, it wouldn't work as well. But again, these are all things that you can kind of get to as you learn Final Draft more. I think for this tutorial, just knowing how to go through the different elements is more than enough to get you started. I didn't even bother with any of this stuff for the longest time, for years. You know, you could, like everything I showed you in this tutorial, you can absolutely write an entire feature script with just all of that if you want, because this really is, you know, this is all the elements of a screenplay. You have the slug lines, you have action description, you have dialogue, and then sometimes parentheticals, and of course, transitions. That's it. And so, as long as you know how to do the enter key and the tab key, and then of course, to get a slug line, all you have to do is type int dot or ext dot or I/e dot, and it auto changes to that. You're cooking with fire already, my friend. Anyways, hope this is a useful tutorial, and I'll see you later.